to all of us.
Yes.
For successful.
Successful 1 year, 2 years.
2 years of life.
Hello friends, on the special occasion of Women's Day, we 5 women are presenting 5 different adaptations of women. How this adaptation helps us to remain healthy, or what type of, difficulties in adaptation lead to different types of pathologies. So basically, in women, how the femininity is balanced with masculinity. From feminine element and the adaptation when the situations get tougher, the femininity goes on reducing and it becomes more towards masculinity. That is why we are seeing so many pathologies, because women has to become tougher, stronger to adapt to the situation. That is also the reason for pathologies like polycystic ovarian disease, where testosterone becomes high, where there is hirsutism, where there is, all the masculine features come up in women. So it is basically it becomes a way of adapting, or a pathological adaptation, or a morbid adaptation. So in this session, we are exploring the feminine element of a woman in different degrees, with different types of adaptations, going from high feminine remedy like defloratum, which has maternal instinct exaggerated, and we are ending with Phytolacca, which has become, lost the feminine aspect, or the refinement of the female. So we will see this journey. And today we are going to present the gist or the course of all these remedies. We are not describing the whole case in details. So it is like a bonanza. In short, 5 remedies. So let's start with extremely sensitive feminine, whom we call as Gaumata, defloratum, by Dr. Aditi.
Thank you, Anita. And so now we start today's presentation. Now this is the case of a 55-year-old lady. She had come to me a few years back with a complaint of nocturnal enuresis since last many years. And she had taken a lot of medicines, but nothing was helping. Allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurvedic, everything she had done without any results. Now her main, while taking the history, I found out that she had undergone a severe grief and trauma because her son gave divorce to his wife. They were married for 5 years and son gave divorce to his wife. Now son gave divorce, but she was very much attached to daughter-in-law like a daughter. So while describing, she was constantly weeping, saying that I lost my daughter. I was very attached to her. And this was the main crux in that history during that time. And then other things were there. She had recurrent throat problems, recurrent boils, lot of nostalgia before when she was getting periods. When she had come to me in proper menopause. But past history, then she had lot of cons, suppurations, and many more things. When I was inquiring more in her life, I came to know that they were 5 sisters. She was the eldest, and mother used to remain very ill and sick. So mother would not be able to give much in the family during that time. And this lady, at a very, very young age, she adopted a role of like a mother. She would make her sisters ready for the school, pack their tiffins, then make them do their homework. Then all of them will go to school. Then she will get ready, go to school, come back home, and then again do all the chores which generally a mother would do. And she used to do it very happily. I asked her that, did you feel that you lost your childhood? She said, no, I never felt that way. I was enjoying doing that. Like, so seeing these things, I prescribed her like defloratum, and wonderfully over a period of 1 month, her bedwetting reduced and stopped completely. Her cons fell off, and then I have a follow-up of her nearly for 2 years. She in between intermittently she got once or twice bedwetting, and again a dose or two of leg defloratum, and she would settle so well. So here my main focus to prescribe leg defloratum was maternalistic exaggerated. I mean, that was a very, very characteristic PQRS I felt in her case, and it ran through and through, right from her school age days till she has become now 55, 60, 55-year-old lady. So through and through, this was running in her case, and that is why leg defloratum worked so very well. And then there were other things, like she was very yielding. There was never an anger in her nature. Another aspect she spoke to me about from a very, very well-to-do family. Husband is highly educated, children are highly educated. And she told me, I don't have still my house of my own. We have always been living in rental houses. I said, does it bother you? She said, it used to bother initially, but now I have adjusted to it. I have no problems with it. I mean, and there was no dearth of money, or there was no other problem. It is just that psychology of that family. So they were not having their house, and she didn't even have complaint for that also. That mild lady, that yielding, and she used to like company. She would like socializing. She also told me one more thing during her history. She said, I have not done enough for my salvation. Now I want to work towards my salvation. I have done a lot for the family, and that I am doing, and I'm loving still to do it. But now I want to do something for my salvation. So, this lack remedies, going from the religiousness to spirituality, this was also very well seen in this remedy. And so this is my leg defloratum case. And we saw the very beautiful shade of a female, Annapurna Kamdenu, leg defloratum. Yeah. So now I'll invite next speaker, Dr. Shobha Shah. She will show us another beautiful shade of a women's nature. Yeah, over to you, Shobha.
Yeah, thank you, Aditi.
Yeah.
So, friends, I'm going to share a case of a lady who was in her 30s, and she was a widow lady. She came to me with a complaint of menometrorrhagia after her husband's death. So she was youngest amongst her siblings, and she was coming from a very well-to-do family. But she did a love marriage, and her husband was a heavy alcoholic, which I think she didn't know earlier. But after that, she came to know. But by that time, she had done a love marriage, so she just did not share it with anybody, and she kept it silently, for her own self, and she grieved possibly. Even the concert of her life was disturbed, and her husband was so much alcoholic that he finally died out of the alcoholic liver disease, and that too in a very young age of his 30s. And that is how this female, she became a widow at the age of around 30, and at that time she had two very small kids with her. So now her parents' family were very concerned about her because she was a youngest amongst her siblings and who had become widow. So they were very much concerned, and they were like, trying to motivate her to restart her life, to get married and settle down, because her children were also very small. So then how will she bring her up her children single-handedly? But what happened was that this patient, she remained very firm on her decision, meaning she declared that she is not going to remarry. And she preferred taking a stand that she will prefer to stay with her in-laws family. In her in-laws family, she had a widow mother-in-law and her elder brother-in-law and his family. So she said, no, I would prefer to live here And why she chose to live in that in-laws family? Because she felt that my children are very small, but they are the children of my in-laws house, and my in-laws they love them like, like their own children. So she felt ki if I get married, my children will be served as a stepchildren if I go to some other family. Whereas in this family, my children will be taken care as their children, as the children of their son, and they will never get that feeling of being rejected or being a stepchildren. So for the children's sake, she decided ki she will not get remarried to other. She felt that the children will always have that feeling, no, this is our house and these are my family members. So she decided not to remarry. And it was like, it was her clarity of mind that was very evident at that time, when she was really grieving also very silently, and still she had that clarity of mind. With that, she decided to live in the same family, continue her life. And then what she did was she educated her own self further, and she looked after her husband's shop. So she also took up the role of a father at that moment of time, and took up the responsibility of family, of her children, tried to bring them up, give them very good sanskars, and today, like, both her children are on the top in the education, and they are respecting her also so much. So she took up the responsibility very highly. She took up did all her duties in the family also. But friends, as we know, it was not a very easy, life for any women to live in the in-laws family, being a widow, where you have no husband of your own to share your love and your sorrows. Still, she continued living there. At the same time, as a single parent, she brought up her children also very well. So she did all this because of her high morality, high sense of moral feelings, and her love for her family. Also, like, she used to feel lonely many a times and used to grieve. She used to come to me, and at that time also she used to weep and share her things. But still, she sailed through very smoothly, meaning with all the ups and downs, and she could do all these things by herself. So if I see the nature of the patient, no, she is very mild, very vivacious. At the same time, she's highly sensitive and sentimental by nature. Also, she was responsible. We saw that shade. And she was highly religious too. So she had involved herself into a lot of religious activities also. So, and she loved and cared for the complete family. So, friends, as we know that Ignatia belongs to the sixth subclass and in the Logenaceae family. So we could see that this patient had a lot of control over her own self, and she could, behave like a mature adult. So that is how she was prescribed Ignatia 200 infrequently. And we could see that there was a very nice result in her menometrorrhagia. She settled very, very well. Even if we see the psychodynamically, because her husband was not there, the menometrorrhagia and the menstrual complaints also she had suffered because of the husband's death and husband's absence. So that also was taken care with the Ignatia. Later on, she also developed little hypertension because she had the family history of hypertension, but that also came under control with the further dosages of the Ignatia. So that is how she was helped with Ignatia. So now, friends, this is what was from my side. I will invite Dr. Kushala to share a beautiful case of a bird remedy, Falco.
Thank you, Shobha. Anita will be sharing my screen. Yeah. Is the screen shared?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So, friends, this is a case which is very close to my heart. This lady is coming to me from a very long time. And she's a senior lady of around 75 who had 4 relapses of cancer in various places, from her breast to the uterus, to the brain, to the lungs, and with severe side effects of the radiotherapy that she has gone through. She's almost having elephant legs. She's having apthe. She's in a bad shape. She's really in a bad shape. But the way she manages herself is really, you will say, hats off to her. Her husband is extremely dominating, very abusive, always monitoring her, what you're doing, how many chapatis you've given the maid, whom are you talking on the phone. If she has to go even to the parlor, he will say, okay, how much time you will take. I mean, it's so much. He'll be checking on her. He'll be hiding on the other room to hear whom she's talking to and how long she's talking to on the phone. And he's totally insensitive, even in that stage of her, where she's coming after a radiotherapy. He will expect that, in the night he gets leg pain, so she should massage her leg. I mean, he's extremely insensitive to this lady's suffering and very self-centered. So then from this, I took the rubrics: abused ailments from, domination ailments from, and she's exasperated with him. But, you can see that the way she says it, but she can do nothing. And she's totally suppressed. So excitement suppressed. And she's, in spite of all this, she says, I would rather look at the light than the dark part of my life. So darkness aggravates. What was her feelings towards it? She says, I'm so irritated. I'm stuck in this rut, but I blank it out. I ignore. I don't want to make this situation very serious. I focus on the light and not on the dark. I'm fed up, but I have no escape because I have to take up my responsibility. If I leave him, nobody will look after him. Plus, my son, who's staying in the same building down, he'll get stuck up with him, and his wife is also not a very cooperative lady. So he said he'll have to face all the brunt. He said, I've accepted the situation. I've stopped caring. And it doesn't matter to me how I live. I do the art of living, the Sudarshan Kriya. That is like a shield for me, where nothing percolates into me. So at the moment, even if I'm angry or hurt, for a moment it will stay with me. Then because of the Kriya, everything goes off. Previous, I was a very soft, timid person and very sensitive, but now I'm hardened. So taking all this into consideration, I took that she's trapped, delusion trap she's. And she delusion shield around him as an iron. Delusion horses she is, desires to be free. That's what she wants. She wants to escape. She wants freedom from this rut. And delusion she's repudiated. There's indifference. She say, I just don't care now. Indifference, partner, wife, husband, spouse too. Escape desires to, wants to get out of the house. Like to that extent, even if she wants to go to some place to buy her undergarments, he'll say, okay, then I'll accompany you. I mean, he is just behind her. Indignation. She feels so much of wrong. You can see that, inside her, that type of the feeling of I'm being wronged. I'm feeling so insulted with this man. But at the same time, she said, I cannot do anything. Tranquility, serenity, calmness, reconcile to faith. She's now totally hardened. She said, I'm unfeeling, hard-hearted. I'm hardened with this man. And her adaptation, the way she will express it, I mean, you will get lost in the way she expresses. She's so vivacious, so cheerfully. She'll make a joke of the situation, the way she will make a lot of gestures and the way she will talk. It's so amusing. She will make a total, in a very subtle way, she will contempt him. But at the same time, in a very amusing way, she'll describe the whole situation. And at length, she was very communicative, expansive. At length, she will describe the entire case. So the question comes, why is she staying here with so much of, they are extremely, extremely well off. So her thing was, I cannot shrug the responsibility I have towards my husband, because deep down, I know that nobody can live with this man and nobody will look after him. And my only son will face the brunt of all this. Her basic personality, she's contented. They have lots and lots of money, but she's a person who's so helpful. I mean, her entire area, a very big length of area, she goes down, she'll cook almost 2 kgs of rice cooked in milk, and she'll feed all the strays down. She has adopted so many strays in the centers. She has love for animals, love for nature, extremely sympathetic to animals, extremely helpful. She goes out of her way to help people monetarily or in whatever way she can. She's very mild, timid, and you can see that courage in her. I have never seen, in spite of so many cases of cancer, was totally flat after their chemo, but every time she has that strength to face the situation and to make a small, she'll make that so same thing so as if, nothing big. I mean, it's nothing big to have a cancer. She will say, I walk around bald. She calls people who have cancer, advises them how to go about things when everything is so, as if everything is so easy. She's courageous and she's patient. So with all this, I gave her Falco P. I would say frequently on and off, I give the cases, I mean, doses of Falco P 200. But what is it that she has been able to sustain so many years of her, ill health? And she's still sustaining and still very positive and managing her life very well. She's out of cancer now, but then you never know the way her environment is still very, not very conducive, but she's managing her life well. That's all that I can say for her. So now I would like to invite Dr. Anita with another dynamic case of a woman.
Friends, I'm going to share 2 cases of one remedy. So, first case is, she is a lady in her late 30s. She's quite well educated. She's from a family where there are 2 daughters, and they were given good education. They were loved a lot by grandparents and parents, and they were given a lot of freedom to do whatever they wanted. So it was a very loving, close-knit type of atmosphere. Now, while studying, she fell in love with a guy who is from an Orthodox family. So they are both MBAs, they are well educated. So she thought that, like, if he is educated, so Orthodox nature of the family will be, it will be neutralized, or, somewhere he will support her through that. She got married, but she said her in-laws were so patriarchal, where, daughter-in-laws were supposed to do everything at home, even if they are so educated and working on a very good post, but still they are supposed to do all the household chores, take care of the house, not back answer, and don't nobody took their opinions into count. So it was a totally patriarchal society. So she said, I had seen it in my Masi's cases. She has 2 maternal aunts. So they also faced this, patriarchal society in their in-laws. But I never thought that in today's age also such patriarchal families exist. So this was one statement which really struck me. So she expected her husband to help her in the kitchen and all that, because they were both from hotel background. And when they were staying here, he used to do everything. But when he was at in-laws in their house, if he helped, mother-in-law would say, "Ki, "Arey, ye to बीवी का ही मदद कर रहा है, ये तो जोरू का गुलाम है." Like that type of criticism was there. So husband also avoided helping her, and he would also stop her from back answering, though she was very angry inside. So she also could not react anytime. So a lot of suppression of anger was there. Now, it also happened that when she delivered a child, actually she did not want a child, but because of family pressure, after 4 years of marriage, she agreed to have a child. And just after her delivery, her parents went to meet her. And in that, her father fell sick. So father had chronic renal failure. So he had to be admitted where her in-laws were, like in that town only. They were from a different town. So all the responsibility of taking care of the father. And then finally, her grandfather had to donate the kidney to her father. So both father and grandfather were both hospitalized. Patient had just delivered. So she actually, she said, ki, I gave minimum care to my child. And I had to go and do my responsibilities in my family. So husband, though supportive, he always felt that she was more inclined towards her family. She was helping her family more. But because of responsibility, and it is like, two daughters, so she had to be like a son. So she had to take all the responsibilities on her shoulder. So finally, her father and grandfather both died at short interval. So that had affected her. And then she had to take care of her mother and grandmother. So she shifted them to near her house. And she also had to marry off the younger sister. So all this she did. But, if you see her own personal life, she was not happy. Because she was not happy with her husband, who was not that supportive. Husband felt she was more inclined towards her parental family. She did not like child, but she had to bear a child. So though, she did minimum, in her words, she took minimum care. So she doesn't like taking up that responsibility. Now, after this, she went into postpartum depression, which continues still. Her son, fortunately, is a very less demanding. Like she said, low maintenance child. He doesn't need much care. He's quite independent, though he's just 6 to 7 years old. But she enjoys playing with him. She enjoys light conversation with him. But when it comes to taking care of the child, she doesn't like. Now she doesn't feel like cooking. She doesn't feel like doing any work. She doesn't feel like living in the house. So she, spends a lot of time in her work. She comes home late. Then after coming home, she said, I go into silent zones where she can just lie on bed and read the book without interacting with anyone, without doing anything. Now they have separated off from the in-laws. So now only 3 of them are staying together. So all this is, she is like totally averse to doing all these things. So in this case, what struck me was, one thing is, she talked about patriarchal society. And she talked of why women have to do all this work, why men cannot help, why women cannot look after their own families. So that way she was challenging. So what struck me was a very good, actually we have a very good rubric where there is, the rubric is, I will share my screen. So these are the rubrics of my first case, where the core rubrics are delusion suffering women through ages conscious of. That means they are not just, sensitive to their own suffering, but the whole woman, all the women, how they are going through suffering through ages. So it is like an ancestral trauma for them. So when she is comparing herself with her masis, who are also going through the suffering in their houses. So that is the rubric which struck me a lot. So this is the core rubric of Asterias rubens. Delusion suffering women through ages, conscious of. Then there is a rubric housekeeping aversion to children her own with guilty feeling. And anxiety housing. That is why she wants to stay out. She wants to work a lot. She wants to remain in the work office only, doing all the work. So this is her escape mechanism also. So now as compared to other cases which were shared with maternal instinct, now and the acceptance of the suffering, now we see how people are going into morbid adaptation where they feel the suffering so much. There is also one rubric, delusion answering to delusions. So Asterias has this delusion that women have suffered through ages, and they look at other things from that angle. They perceive things with that, prejudice in their mind. And then they answer accordingly. Her own family structure may not be that morbid, but because of, exaggerated sensitivity to suffering of women through ages, they perceive it all the more. And then they become averse to the femininity. or the feminine role in the society. So another case also came like that. Even that had a...
Anita, can you make full screen?
I'm coming back. I'm stopping the screen. I'm
Okay.
coming back. I will describe second case now. In the second case, again, if we focus on the complaints, she came with the complaints of vaginal boils, which were very extremely painful. She described this as janleva dard hota tha. So that type of complaint. She also had acne rosacea with lot of redness on her cheeks. And she had IBS and she had PMS, which was very severe, and she had mood swings. And her family was, she lost her father when she was 6 years old. Her mother was herself hysterical and psychiatrically, abnormal, so she could not give proper care. On the contrary, she felt I had to mother my mother. I had to take care of her mother. And her elder brother had seen mother fighting with father, so elder brother had very totally different equation with mother. So there were a lot of conflicts in the family. She was sexually abused in childhood. So even that, she did not realize it at that time because she was too young at that time. But when she grew up, she saw some series in which she came across this abuse and she realized that she was also abused. At that time, she talked to her mother, but mother was not in that position to explain to her or take any action regarding that. So that pent up anger was always there. Like she took long time to come out of that trauma. Now, about PMS, she said, why do women have to go through this suffering every month? Men should also get at least one period. At least once they should bleed. And she shows her soiled patch to her husband. See how much I'm bleeding. And she also said why we have to wear Mangal Sutra. Then why we are not allowed to pray when we are having periods. So why we are considered as impure. So and she married in a family again which was orthodox. So they were very ritualistic. So there were very frequent pujas for which she had to do a lot of preparation. And she had to entertain all the guests. So every time mother-in-law would, tell her to offer flowers, to do this and do that. So she used to get very irritated. Why we have to do all these rituals? So she was against all these things. And about work also, she said, Kisi, I have to do everything from morning. I have to cook, do everything, leave the house hurriedly, go to office, attend everything, come back, again start cooking. And her mother-in-law was extremely disorganized. So whenever she came back, everything was in a mess. So she always wanted that order. So she always said, when we are doing everything at home, we hardly get any appreciation. But if our husbands help us in one task also, they get so much of appreciation. So that comparison was always there. And she also had, IBS was there from young age only. And she had these involuntary movements. She has this clawing, then involuntary movements in the neck, like she used to clench jaw and twitching in different muscles. So considering all these, and also she had lost her brother-in-law, whom she considered as fatherly figure, to cancer. So that fear of cancer was there. And his death had affected both patient and her husband a lot. So that elements from death of loved ones. She lost her father also. She lost this brother-in-law also, whom she considered as father. So fear of cancer was there, and she dreamt that she had cancer, that too epithelial cancer in her breast, and the doctor is telling her husband to that it is quite advanced, and she got up with fear, and then she realized that it was just a dream. So fear of cancer is also there, and there is also the dream of breast cancer. So considering all these factors, I will share her repertory sheet also. So core rubrics for case 2 are elements from sexual abuse, elements from death of loved ones, delusion, suffering woman through ages conscious of. She is all the more conscious of menstruation and everything, why we have to suffer every month, the type of restrictions are which are put up on the females. Then fear of cancer mammy and dreams of cancer mammy. So considering this also, I came to Asterias rubens. So now as we see, like Asteria rubens basically has, animal animation, vivacity, energy, excitement is there, along with lot of congestion, fire element. So lot of anger, suppressed anger, indignation, and all the pathologies which are due to suppressed anger. So you also see a lot of redness, which is there in the breast abscess or acne rosacea. And also it has a lot of congestion, which leads to apoplexy. So there is also fear of apoplexy. So for malignant hypertension also, it is a good remedy. Malignant hypertension also, Asteria rubens is a very good remedy. So there is a lot of overstimulation, which also explains the twitching and all that. So basically from this clawing movement and acne rosacea itself, it had struck me that it can be, Asteria rubens. So focusing more on this rubric, conscious of women suffering through ages, I came across this picture where there is so much of suffering. There is abandonment, death of loved one, loss of a lover, losing a friend, then self-disgust. Now, Asterias has, they have this, they are quite sensitive to their own body odor. So that self-disgust is there. Inhibited expression, forsaken quality, self-criticism, denied experience. Now, you also have ancestral trauma here and also global sorrows. Then unreceived gifts or opportunities missed when women are not allowed to, do what they want. And then the resulting depression and disconnection. So, friends, we are traveling from maternal instinct exaggerated to a very brave mother and a brave wife who's taking care of the dominating husband. And now Nirupama will, but in my case, femininity is getting suppressed and they are becoming anti-feminine. And now we will come to Nirupama's case. She will also focus more on femininity. Yes, Nirupama.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. So this case had come to me before also 2, 3 times, but there was not much data, so I could not prescribe a right remedy. So elderly lady came with complaints of arthritis, OA basically, osteoarthritis bilateral, and she had some complaints of tonsillitis, vertigo, all age-related complaints. So, because I was knowing that there is not much history, so this time the case, I started some different way and I just asked, what are your hobbies? And she said, I like to watch movies. Which is your favorite movie? She said, instantly it came, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. And what you liked in the movie? She said, what a mother she was, the way she was fighting for her kids. And this lady started crying. And this was totally different picture which I had seen before. I always seen her a very strong lady. I was knowing through other people that she's a very, very irritable lady who controls everyone. And she loses her temper like anything. A known angry person. And this time what I see, she was crying. And there was reason for it. Because before that, I could not crack the remedy. This time there was reason. And then this lady said, I overheard a conversation of my son with my husband. And see, this lady is an elderly lady. She is into 70s and her son was somewhere around 40s. And she overheard her son was saying ki Papa, mother was very strict. She never allowed so many things. And how much she used to beat us. You were one who was the loved one. And the 70 years old lady broke down. And that's why that continuously tears started coming. And she said, "Ki, Doctor, I had seen my father who was so strict. And I learned that. I know I was very strict, but I was knowing only that. And in that process, children felt suffocated. But in this case, what struck me was a son who was in 40s was talking about this. It means what was the suffering of that boy, a young child? Hmm? So when I was analyzing this case, I realized that this mother was a very strict, controlling mother, could not allow children to explore their world. Hmm? And with this understanding, when I saw few characteristic symptoms, like she said, after delivery there was no milk production, and instead there were cracked nipples. Plus, there was a strong history of recurrent tonsillitis. With this, my understanding of third class, like where there is a lot of fire element and you suppress the water. See, basically, water element was there. The way lady was crying, the way she was talking about the woman's fight against Norway. So that was there. But the presentation was through lot of anger, the lot of control. The nurturance was getting suffocated. The way she was nurturing was very controlled way. And with the few physical symptoms, I prescribed her Phytolacca. And you all know that Phytolacca is a very good remedy for osteoarthritis. And it has background of the breast symptoms. It has background of the heart symptoms also. And when I was referring books, I realized a very good rubric in this, delicacy, loss of personal. And second rubric which I came across was rigidity will not adjust to any circumstance. So what is delicacy? It's a very much a feminine element, a delicate way of presentation, a graceful way of presentation. This is all feminine. But what happens over a period of time because of lot of control, restriction, and your own experiences, that gets lost. Hmm? And you become very rigid in process. And that's why this rubric has come, rigidity will not adjust to any circumstances. Hmm? So with this understanding, I gave her Phytolacca and patient was lot better with the medicine. So today's our purpose was to see the various facets of maternal instinct, the feminine aspect, the one which comes with the lot of lot of maternal instinct, doing for everyone around, then to the family. Like first case was doing for everyone, then the family and children. And then you see the last two cases from Anita's case, the shift has gone, where there was lot of fire element, lot of anger against the system. So Asteria rubens and Phytolacca shows more about the fire element than the water. Water was suppressed here. And that was our purpose of today's session. We wanted to show this element, how feminine starts and ends in masculine. Hmm? And these are the different adaptation we wanted to share with you all. If you want to share anything,
I'll just read two
Kushala,
lines.
hmm,
I'm the calm and the storm, the
yes.
fire and the rain, the warrior and the healer, a woman unafraid to embrace her duality, My balance is not a flaw. It's my fiercest strength, my wildest power, my most beautiful truth. So we have seen from vulnerability to strength, from softness to hardness. So Phytolacca also becomes hard after nurturing so many people.
Yes. So even softness is not a vulnerability or weakness. That is a very much a wanted feminine element, right? But it gets abused, it gets affected, and then it has to lose that and go towards the right side. It becomes the hard person. So with this, we end today's session. Happy Women's Day to all. Thank you.
Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.